This is the National Briefing for Tuesday, January 6th. My name is Kelly Nash, host of the National Briefing. A lot of stories. You know, you talk about Maduro pled guilty. No, he pled not guilty. Oh, shocker of shocks. His wife says possibly she had her ribs broken. And the extraction, I'm assuming we'll be getting a lawsuit for that pretty soon. Also, Tim Walz fired by the Democrat machine yesterday. I mean, he says, I'm not running for re-election, let's be honest. Tim Walz was fired. He has served his purpose, and now the investigations begin into whether or not Tim Walz was basically picked to be the vice presidential nominee because he had access to the Somali funds, a.k.a. your tax dollars. That it could be, Donald Trump says no one's above the law. He tweeted about it yesterday, or he truthed about it. Anyway, but that's not the story I want to get to this morning in the National Briefing. I'm sad to report that New York City is no longer a capitalist city. It is now a socialist city. There was a new poll came out Monday, showed that 53% of New Yorkers, so the majority of New Yorkers, say that they agree with Mamdani's version of socialism. What is his version of socialism? It doesn't matter. Any version of socialism is a bad version of government. But that lesson is now going to have to be relearned the tough way. Let's go to specifically the number one issue, it seems, that a lot of New Yorkers want to have addressed, which is what they call rent stabilization or rent freezing. Mamdani announced that a woman named Sia Weaver is going to be the, I guess they had this office, but it kind of was not being run. So he says we're going to boost up this office. It's called, the Office to Protect Tenants. And the Sia Weaver is the new director of that. And so who is Sia Weaver? Let's listen to her on a conference call. I guess this is a couple of years ago. Sia Weaver on a conference call discussing the idea of freezing rents in New York City.
Democratically controlled public housing is really important. And that's why when Raquel is talking about the communities and that she's describing, that's a created community where the people who are living there are like setting the agenda. And so, people like home ownership because they like control, and that's been perverted by like deep racism and deep classism in our society. So like we have to not have a racist and classist society. And so that's like something we need to think about like deeply. To me, it's about control, and why rent control is really important is because rent control alters the power dynamic between renters and who owns the building.
Boy, home ownership. What does she say? It's because people like control, and that's racist, and we can't have a racist class society or something like that. I mean, I'm laughing because in the New York Post story, or maybe this is the Fox 5 story I'm reading, they described her, Sia Weaver, as part of the new brain trust, and yet her arguments are that of a fifth grader. Like, we can't have racist policies, and, people like home ownership because it makes them feel like they're in control, and yet more people need control. Okay, 53% of New Yorkers agree with this argument. This is sad. So we're going to have a new relationship with home ownership. And she goes a little deeper. This was not her on a conference call. This is her just making a video and posting it a couple of years ago, talking about how everything's going to change.
I think the reality is that for centuries, we've really treated property as an individualized good and not a collective good. And transitioning to treating it as a collective good and towards a model of shared equity will require that we think about it differently. And it will mean that families, especially white families, but some POC families who are homeowners as well, are going to have a different relationship to property than the one that we currently have.
Poof. We're going to have a different relationship. It's a shared collective. It's a commune. I mean, what else could you call it? If I, as the homeowner, have to now have a different relationship than the one that I currently have with my property, it's AKA no longer my property. It's now for the collective good because I am apparently racist or some sort of bad word, because I like the idea that when I buy my property, as long as I continue to pay a mortgage, if I have a mortgage, if I didn't pay cash for it, if I pay the mortgage and I pay my taxes, that I not only can do with my property what I'd like, I can also earn equity and actually build wealth. That's going away in New York City. If they get all their hopes and dreams fulfilled in New York City of socialism, it will now be for the collective good. So even though I bought it, it's not just for me. I guess I'll have to, like if I own a house, I guess I would have to have, certain rooms set aside for whoever would like to live there rent-free or for a very nominal fee, we'll say. All right. I get the argument. Look, I lived in New York City. It's very expensive. It was very expensive when I lived there in the 90s and early 2000s. It's very, very expensive now. New York City, by the way, when you want to talk about under housing, like they don't have enough housing. I saw this stat. I was like, how is that even possible? It's like, here it is. New York City's severe housing shortage has a vacancy rate of negative 1.4%. That means every place is filled in New York City, and there's still basically 1.5% of the population is trying to get into something. They don't have a place to live. So why do rents go up then? Because we don't have enough housing. What are they proposing is a very short-term fix. Will it work in the short term? I believe absolutely. If you're saying that I can't raise the rent for years, then yes, the next year or two, I guess that would stabilize things. But it would also destabilize. And what I mean by that is the building owners are not going to take care of the buildings. And I don't say that because they're cold-hearted. What I'm saying is they don't have the money. Because everything, unless you can freeze the cost of drywall and paint and, pipe, and electricity and all these other things, they don't have, unless there's more money coming in for the rising costs of the goods and services needed for the building, then those buildings will start to become dilapidated. The people inside those homes will have worse and worse experiences. The actual answer that you're looking for is capitalism. I know that sounds insane, but you need more capitalism, not less. And by that, what you should be doing in New York City, if you would like to lower the cost of rent for everybody, that is a noble goal that will serve the city well, you would actually take away a lot of the restrictions on buildings. You would encourage new construction. You would have more and more high-rises going up in Midtown Manhattan, and you would have the Bronx and Queens and all the boroughs, maybe not Staten Island. Staten Island's kind of a place unto itself. But the other boroughs would all be building at a rapid pace in order to fulfill this housing shortage that they have in New York City. But the exact opposite's going to happen, because now that people who are in the real estate industry, as far as building, why would I build here? You're telling me that you have all these restrictions already in place, and now you're going to add more restrictions? Bump it. I'll go build in some place that's not like that. I mean, hell, you could even build in Buffalo. I mean, you could just get out of New York City and do better. I wouldn't build in New York State if I was them either. But the solutions that they are proposing are actually going to make things worse. So not only are you going to have the reduced maintenance, you're also going to have the reduced construction. You're going to have less investments coming in. People, why would I invest into a property where you're telling me that the lady in charge is saying it's going to become a commune, that I'm going to have a new relationship with my investment? I mean, all of this just screams of nightmare for New York City. I'm sad for the people of New York City, but I hope that the eyes of the nation are turning towards it right now, because we are predicting catastrophe for New York City if these policies are allowed to be implemented. catastrophe. And we're saying it here, January 6, 2026. So let's not be surprised if 2026 goes pretty well for the housing community, and then maybe even parts of 2027. But when we get to 2028 and it's just freaking collapsing, let it be known that the national briefing was calling for it today.